It hurts. It's my first time tonight. Those were the exact words Saskia, the giant virgin bride, whispered to Calvin, the lonely cowboy, on their wedding night 6 months ago. He promised, "I'll make it easy," and he did. But now, standing in their bedroom with her belly swollen, 6 months pregnant, Saskia whispered those same words again. "It hurts, Calvin. It's my first time tonight carrying our child, and I'm terrified my body will fail." The lonely cowboy, who'd made her first time easy, now faced a giant pregnant bride whose fear had returned. Her body was changing, stretching, becoming even bigger, and the intimacy they'd built felt impossible now. "I'm too big," Saskia sobbed, her hands on her massive belly. "I'll hurt you. I'll hurt the baby." "I can't." "We can't." But Calvin stepped close, his hands gentle on her face, and said 4 words that would either shatter her completely or teach her that making it easy wasn't just for one night, it was for a lifetime. What secret had Calvin been keeping about pregnant women? What did his first wife teach him that would change everything for this giant bride carrying his child? And could he really make it easy again? Or was Saskia's fear finally too much even for the patient cowboy who loved her? The February wind rattled the bedroom windows. Snow piled high against the ranch house, turning the world outside into a white prison. Inside, the fire crackled, throwing shadows across Saskia's face. She'd been crying for an hour. Calvin had found her like this when he came in from feeding the horses, standing by the window in her nightgown, her arms wrapped around her belly like she was trying to hold herself together. "Tell me what happened," Calvin said softly, not moving closer yet. He'd learned in 6 months of marriage that when Saskia was afraid, rushing toward her only made her retreat further into herself. "I saw Martha Jenkins in town today," Saskia whispered. Her voice was raw, scraped clean of everything except pain. "She looked at my belly and said, 'Lord have mercy, that baby's going to be a giant just like its mama. I hope you survive the birth, dear. Big women have big babies, and big babies kill their mothers.'" Calvin's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Martha Jenkins, the same woman who'd told Saskia she was too big to be a proper wife. The same woman who'd whispered behind her, and at their wedding, that Calvin must be desperate to marry. A woman like that, Martha Jenkins, is a bitter old woman who never recovered from losing her own. "Baby 30 years ago," Calvin said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "She wants everyone else to suffer like she did. But what if she's right?" Saskia turned to face him, and Calvin's heart broke at the terror in her eyes. "What if I'm too big? What if the baby is too big? What if my body that you said was perfect, that you said was exactly right, what if it kills our child? Or kills me, or both?" Her hands trembled against her belly. She was 6 months along, and the pregnancy showed dramatically on her tall frame. Her belly was round and hard, pushing against the fabric of her nightgown. Her breasts had grown fuller, her hips wider. Every change made her more beautiful to Calvin, but he could see in her eyes that every change made her feel more monstrous. "Come here," Calvin said, opening his arms. "I can't." Saskia shook her head. "I can't be close to you right now. Because I want to be close to you, Calvin. I want you to touch me the way you used to. But I'm afraid. What if we hurt the baby? What if I'm too big now, too awkward, too heavy? What if—" "Saskia!" Calvin's voice cut through her spiral. "Do you remember what I told you on our wedding night? You said a lot of things. I said your body knows what to do. I said you just have to trust it." He took 1 step closer. "That's still true. Your body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's growing our baby. It's getting ready to bring new life into this world. And it's still yours. Still beautiful, still exactly right. But it hurts," Saskia whispered, and now the tears came faster. "My back hurts. My feet hurt. I can't sleep because the baby kicks so hard. And I miss you, Calvin. I miss being close to you. But I'm so afraid that if we try, if we're intimate like we used to be, something will go wrong." Calvin closed the distance between them. He stood in front of his wife, this woman who towered over him even now, this woman who'd given him everything, who'd trusted him with her fear and her body and her heart. He reached up and cupped her face, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "I need to tell you something," Calvin said quietly. "Something I should have told you before, but I was waiting for the right time. And I think that time is now." Saskia's breath caught. "What is it?" "Emma, my first wife, she was pregnant when she died." The words fell between them like stones into still water. Saskia's eyes went wide. "Calvin, I didn't know. You never said." "I know. Because it hurt too much to talk about." Calvin's voice was rough with old grief. "She was 7 months along. We were going to name the baby Sarah if it was a girl, James if it was a boy. And Emma was terrified, just like you are now. She was small, and everyone told her small women have hard births. The doctor said she might not survive it." "Oh, Calvin," Saskia's hands came up to cover his. "But here's what I learned in those months before she died. Here's what Emma taught me." Calvin's eyes held Saskia's, steady and sure. "She taught me that a woman's body is the strongest thing in the world. That pregnancy doesn't make a woman fragile. It makes her powerful. And she taught me how to love her through it, how to touch her, how to make her feel safe and wanted even when she was afraid." Saskia's breath came faster. "How?" "By listening, by going slow, by making it easy, just like I did on our wedding night." Calvin's hands slid down to her shoulders, her arms, her waist. "Emma didn't die in childbirth, Saskia. She died in an accident a wagon overturned on the way to town. But before that, in those months when she was pregnant and scared, I learned how to love a woman whose body was changing, how to make her feel desired instead of damaged, how to be gentle without treating her like she'd break. And you think," Saskia's voice trembled, "you think you can do that for me?" "I know I can." Calvin's voice was firm. "Because I've done it before, and because I love you more than I loved anything in this world, even Emma. You're not too big, Saskia. You're not too much. You're carrying our child, and that makes you the most incredible thing I've ever seen. But what if we hurt the baby?" "We won't, not if we're careful. Not if we listen to your body." Calvin leaned in close, his forehead touching hers. "Do you trust me?" Saskia closed her eyes. She thought about their wedding night, about how Calvin had kept every promise, how he'd made her first time easy when everyone said it would hurt, how he'd taught her that her body was made for joy, not shame. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I trust you." "Then let me show you," Calvin said, "that making it easy isn't just for one night. It's for every night, including tonight." Calvin took Saskia's hand and led her to the bed. The same bed where he'd first taught her that intimacy didn't have to hurt. The quilt was worn now, faded from 6 months of use, 6 months of learning each other, 6 months of building a life together. The fire cast dancing shadows on the walls, and outside the wind howled. But inside there was only warmth and the sound of Saskia's nervous breathing. "Sit down," Calvin said gently. Saskia sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clutching her nightgown. She felt awkward, enormous, ungainly. Her belly seemed to take up all the space between them. She wanted to hide from Calvin's gaze, wanted to cover herself, wanted to disappear into the shadows where he couldn't see how much her body had changed. But Calvin knelt in front of her. He knelt so that he was looking up at her, so that even though she was sitting and he was on his knees, she still felt tall, still felt seen. "Look at me," he said. Saskia forced herself to meet his eyes. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" Calvin asked. "A giant pregnant woman who's too big for—" "No!" Calvin's voice was firm. "I see my wife. I see the woman who trusted me enough to marry me when she'd never been touched by a man. I see the woman who's carrying my child, growing our baby inside her body, doing the hardest, most beautiful work in the world." He placed both hands on her belly, gentle and reverent. "I see strength, Saskia, not weakness. I see life, not damage. And I see the woman I want more now than I did 6 months ago." "You can't mean that." Saskia's voice broke. "I'm huge, Calvin. I'm awkward. I can't move the way I used to. I can't—" "You can't what? Be beautiful?" Calvin shook his head. "You're more beautiful now than you've ever been, because now I can see the future in you. I can see our child, our family, everything we're building together. That's not ugly, Saskia. That's sacred. Tears spilled down Saskia's cheeks. She'd been holding so much fear for so long, ever since Martha Jenkins had planted that poison in her mind 3 days ago. Fear that her body was wrong again, that she was too much again, that even pregnancy, the most natural thing in the world, was something she'd fail at because she was too big. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. And that's okay." Calvin rose up on his knees and kissed her gently. "But I'm going to make it easy, just like I promised. And the first step is helping you understand that your body isn't the enemy. It's your ally. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But what about being close? What about—" Saskia's face flushed. "What about intimacy? The doctor said I should avoid strain. And I thought that meant the doctor said avoid strain, not avoid living." Calvin smiled softly. "And there are ways to be close, to be intimate, that won't strain you or the baby. Ways that Emma taught me, ways that women have known for thousands of years, but no one talks about because they're too embarrassed to admit that pregnant women still have desires, still want to be touched, still want to feel like women instead of just vessels." Saskia's breath quickened. "Tell me. I'll do better than tell you. I'll show you." Calvin stood and helped Saskia to her feet. "But first, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to look at yourself." Calvin turned Saskia to face the mirror that hung on the wall beside their bed. It was a simple mirror, nothing fancy, but it was large enough to show Saskia's full reflection. She stood there, 6'3", belly round and prominent, nightgown straining across her changed body, and she wanted to look away. "Don't," Calvin said, standing behind her. "Don't look away. Look at yourself the way I see you." "I can't." "Yes, you can." Calvin's hands came to rest on her shoulders. "You're 6 months pregnant with our child. Your body has grown a heart, lungs, bones, fingers, toes. It's grown a whole human being from nothing. And you think that's ugly? I think I'm too big. You're exactly the right size to grow our baby." Calvin's hands slid down her arms. "And you're exactly the right size for me to love." His hands moved to her waist, then to her belly, cradling the roundness there with such tenderness that Saskia felt something crack open in her chest. "This," Calvin said, his voice low and thick with emotion, "this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You carrying our child. You strong enough to do what so many women can't. You alive and here and mine." Saskia watched in the mirror as Calvin kissed her shoulder, her neck, the curve of her jaw. She watched as his hands moved over her body, not with urgency or demand, but with reverence, with patience, with the same gentleness he'd shown on their wedding night. "I want you," Calvin whispered against her ear. "I want you just as much now as I did 6 months ago. More even. Because now I know you completely. I know your strength. I know your courage. And I know that your body, this body that you think is too much, is exactly what I need. Show me," Saskia breathed, surprising herself with her own boldness. "Show me how to be close without being afraid." Calvin turned her to face him. He cupped her face with both hands and kissed her deeply, thoroughly, the kind of kiss that made Saskia forget about her size, about her fear, about everything except the way Calvin made her feel wanted, cherished, desired. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Calvin said, "Lie down on your side." Saskia climbed onto the bed, awkward with her belly, but Calvin was there to help her, to arrange pillows behind her back and between her knees, to make sure she was comfortable before he did anything else. "This is how Emma and I learned to be close when she was pregnant," Calvin said, lying down behind Saskia, fitting himself against her back. "On our sides, so there's no pressure on the baby, no weight on your belly, just closeness." Saskia felt Calvin's body against hers, warm and solid and safe. One of his arms slipped under her head, the other draped over her waist, his hand resting on her belly, where the baby kicked and turned. "Feel that?" Calvin asked as the baby moved under his palm. "Yes, that's our child saying hello to their papa." Calvin's voice was thick with wonder. "That's life, Saskia. Life that you made. Life that we made together." Saskia felt tears on her cheeks again, but these were different tears. Not fear, not shame, but something else. Something like hope. I miss being close to you, Saskia whispered. I miss the way we were. We're still that way. We're just learning a new way to be close. Calvin's hand moved slowly, carefully, from her belly to her hip, to her thigh. Your body has changed, but that doesn't mean it stopped being yours. It doesn't mean you stopped having needs, stopped having desires. It just means we have to be more creative. Creative how? Let me show you. Calvin's voice dropped lower, intimate and warm. But you have to promise me something. What? You have to tell me if anything hurts, if anything feels wrong, if you want me to stop. His hand stilled on her thigh. This only works if you trust me enough to speak up. I trust you, Saskia said. And she meant it. Good. Calvin's hand began to move again, slowly, carefully learning the new landscape of Saskia's body. Because I'm going to make this easy, just like I always do. And when we're done, you're going to understand something important. What's that? The pregnancy doesn't make you less of a woman. It makes you more of one. Calvin kissed the back of her neck. And I'm going to spend the rest of the night proving it to you. What happened next was tender and careful and nothing like Saskia expected. Calvin kept his promise, going slow, finding ways to bring her pleasure without putting any strain on her body or the baby. He whispered words of praise and love, told her she was beautiful, told her she was perfect, told her that carrying his child made her the most desirable woman in the world. And slowly, Saskia began to believe him. Her body responded to his touch, came alive under his hands, proved to her that pregnancy hadn't made her broken or wrong or too much. It had just made her different, and different, as Calvin showed her again and again, could be beautiful. When it was over, when they lay tangled together in the firelight, both breathing hard, both changed by what had passed between them, Saskia whispered, "You made it easy again." "We made it easy," Calvin corrected, his hand resting on her belly where the baby kicked contentedly. "Together." Saskia turned her head to look at him. "I was so afraid." "I know, but I'm not afraid anymore." Saskia's voice grew stronger. "Because you taught me something tonight." "What's that?" "That my body isn't my enemy. It's my ally. And no matter how much it changes, no matter how big I get, I'm still me. Still your wife." "Still exactly right." Calvin smiled, and it was the smile of a man who just won the greatest victory of his life. "Now you understand." "Understand what?" "What Emma taught me before she died. That making it easy isn't about one night or one moment. It's about every day, every challenge, every fear. It's about choosing to face it together instead of alone." Saskia placed her hand over Calvin's on her belly. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for letting me." Calvin kissed her softly. "Now get some sleep. You need your rest. Will you hold me?" "All night long," and he did. Calvin held Saskia through the night, his arms wrapped around her and their unborn child, proving that love wasn't about perfection or size or meeting expectations. It was about showing up day after day and making it easy for the person you loved to be exactly who they were. 3 weeks passed. Spring came early to Colorado, melting the snow and turning the world green again. Saskia's belly grew larger, and with it, her confidence grew too. She walked through town with her head high now, ignoring Martha Jenkins' whispers, ignoring the stares. Because Calvin had taught her something more valuable than gold. He'd taught her that her body was hers, that it was strong, that it was exactly right. But on a warm March morning, everything changed. Saskia woke to pain. Not the gentle ache she'd grown used to, but something sharp and wrong. She gasped and clutched her belly, and immediately Calvin was awake beside her. "What's wrong?" His voice was urgent. "I don't know. It hurts." Saskia's face went white. "Calvin, something's wrong with the baby." Calvin was out of bed in seconds, pulling on his clothes. "I'm getting the doctor. No, don't leave me." Saskia reached for him, terror flooding her veins. "Please don't leave me alone." Calvin hesitated, torn between getting help and staying with his wife. Then he made a decision. "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Then we're going together. Right now." Calvin helped Saskia dress, supporting her weight as she moved slowly, carefully. Every step sent pain through her belly, and she bit her lip to keep from crying out. The walk to town had never seemed so long. The morning sun was too bright, the birdsong too cheerful. Everything felt wrong. When they reached Dr. Morrison's office, Calvin practically carried Saskia through the door. The doctor, an older man with kind eyes and steady hands, took one look at Saskia's face and ushered them into his examination room. "Tell me what you're feeling," Dr. Morrison said calmly. "Pain. Sharp pain in my belly. And the baby hasn't moved since I woke up." Saskia's voice broke. "Is my baby dying? Did I do something wrong? Was it because Calvin and I were intimate? Did I hurt—" "Stop!" Dr. Morrison held up a hand. "Let me examine you first, before we assume the worst." The examination felt like it took hours. Dr. Morrison pressed gently on Saskia's belly, listened with his stethoscope, asked questions about when the pain started and how severe it was. Calvin held Saskia's hand the entire time, his face pale but determined. Finally, Dr. Morrison stepped back. "The baby is fine." Saskia burst into tears. "Fine, but the pain is your body preparing for labor. You're having what we call false labor pains, Braxton Hicks contractions. They're uncomfortable but normal." Dr. Morrison smiled. "Your baby is healthy, strong, and exactly where it should be. You haven't hurt anything. Mrs. Rhodes, your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do." "But I thought—" Saskia couldn't finish. "You thought you'd done something wrong by being intimate with your husband." Dr. Morrison's expression softened. "Mrs. Rhodes, intimacy during pregnancy is perfectly safe and normal. In fact, it's healthy. Your body isn't fragile. It's strong enough to grow a baby and strong enough to love your husband at the same time." Saskia looked at Calvin, who was grinning now, relief flooding his features. "See," Calvin said, "I told you. Your body knows what to do. But why did it hurt so much?" Saskia asked. "Because your body is practicing," Dr. Morrison explained. "Preparing for the real thing. These false labor pains can be intense, especially for first-time mothers. But they're not dangerous. They're actually a sign that your body is getting ready, that everything is progressing as it should. So the baby is really okay. The baby is perfect. Strong heartbeat, good movement, excellent position." Dr. Morrison patted Saskia's hand. "You're doing everything right, Mrs. Rhodes. Stop listening to women like Martha Jenkins who want to scare you. Your size is an advantage, not a disadvantage. Big women have strong bodies, and strong bodies have healthy babies." Saskia felt something loosen in her chest. "Thank you, Doctor. Thank your husband," Dr. Morrison said, nodding to Calvin. "He's the one who got you here so quickly. That kind of attentiveness, that kind of care, that's what makes the difference." On the walk home, Saskia held Calvin's hand tightly. "I'm sorry I panicked." "Don't be sorry. You were scared." Calvin squeezed her hand. "But now you know. Your body is strong, Saskia. Strong enough for anything, even giving birth." "Especially giving birth." Calvin stopped walking and turned to face her. "And when that day comes, I'll be right there with you, making it easy, just like I always do." Saskia believed him, because Calvin had never broken a promise. Not on their wedding night, not during her pregnancy, not ever. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too. All of you. Every inch." They walked home together as the sun climbed higher, as the world turned green and new around them, as their baby kicked strong and sure inside Saskia's belly. And for the first time since Martha Jenkins had poisoned her mind with fear, Saskia felt genuinely happy. 2 months later, on a warm May morning when the Colorado wildflowers bloomed across the hills, Saskia's labor began for real. This time, there was no mistaking it. The contractions came hard and fast, stealing her breath, making her grip the kitchen table until her knuckles turned white. Calvin was there immediately, his face calm, even though his heart was racing. "It's time," Saskia gasped. "I know. I've got you." Calvin wrapped his arm around her waist. "Remember what we practiced. Breathe through it. Your body knows what to do." They made it to the bedroom before the next contraction hit. Dr. Morrison arrived within the hour, his black bag in hand, his expression calm and confident. He'd delivered hundreds of babies in his 40 years as a doctor, but he'd never seen a woman as tall or as strong as Saskia Rhodes. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Rhodes?" he asked as he washed his hands. "Terrified," Saskia admitted, her voice tight with pain. "It hurts so much, Doctor. More than I imagined. That's because you're bringing life into the world. That kind of power always comes with pain," Dr. Morrison smiled. "But you're strong enough for this. I can see it in you. The labor lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of pain that felt like it would break Saskia in half. 6 hours of wondering if she'd survive, if the baby would survive, if Martha Jenkins had been right all along. But through it all, Calvin never left her side. He held her hand when the contractions made her scream. He wiped her forehead with cool cloths when the fever rose. He whispered words of encouragement when she wanted to give up. And when Saskia cried that she couldn't do it, that she was too tired, that her body was failing, Calvin leaned close and said the same words he'd said on their wedding night. "I'll make it easy. Just trust me. Just trust your body." And somehow, through the fog of pain and exhaustion, Saskia found the strength to push, to bear down with every ounce of power in her giant frame, to do what women had done since the beginning of time. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, with the sun streaming through the bedroom window and the smell of wildflowers drifting in on the breeze, Saskia gave one final push, and then there was crying. "The most beautiful sound in the world. It's a girl," Dr. Morrison announced, holding up a squirming, red-faced baby. "A healthy, perfect baby girl." Saskia sobbed with relief as Dr. Morrison placed the baby on her chest. She was big, this baby, nearly 10 pounds, with dark hair and her father's brown eyes and her mother's long limbs. She was perfect. "Look at her," Calvin whispered, his voice choked with tears. "Look at our daughter, Saskia. Look at what you did." Saskia looked down at the tiny life in her arms, this miracle that her body had grown and protected and brought safely into the world. And she understood something profound. Her body wasn't too much. It was exactly enough. Enough to grow life, enough to survive labor, enough to love and be loved, enough for everything that mattered. "What should we name her?" Calvin asked softly. Saskia thought about the journey that had brought them here. About being a virgin bride terrified of her first time. About being a pregnant woman terrified of giving birth. About learning again and again that fear didn't have to win. "Hope," Saskia said. "We'll name her Hope, because that's what you gave me, Calvin. Hope that I wasn't broken. Hope that I wasn't too much. Hope that I was exactly right." Calvin kissed his wife's forehead, then his daughter's. "Hope Rhodes. It's perfect." They sat together in the afternoon light. This little family of 3, proof that love could overcome fear, that patience could make hard things easy, that being too much for the world just meant you were exactly right for the person who truly saw you. Martha Jenkins came by 3 days later, expecting to find Saskia dead or dying like she'd predicted. Instead, she found Saskia in the rocking chair by the window, nursing baby Hope, looking stronger and more beautiful than ever. "I see you survived," Martha said stiffly. "I did more than survive," Saskia replied, her voice calm and sure. "I thrived, because I stopped listening to people who told me I was too much and started listening to the man who told me I was exactly enough." Martha left without another word, and Saskia never saw her again. Years later, when Hope was grown and asking her mother about love and marriage and intimacy, Saskia would tell her the truth. She'd tell her about being a giant virgin bride who thought her first time would hurt, about meeting a lonely cowboy who promised to make it easy, about learning that your body isn't your enemy, that being different isn't being wrong, that the right person doesn't try to make you smaller. They help you become everything you were meant to be, and she'd tell Hope what Calvin taught her on that first night and every night after. That making it easy isn't about avoiding the hard things. It's about facing them together. It's about patience and trust and choosing, every single day, to love someone exactly as they are. That's the real secret. Not that some people are too much or too little, but that love, real love, makes room for all of you. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were too much for someone? Too tall, too big, too different, too broken? Have you ever been afraid that your body would fail you in the moments that mattered most? Or maybe you've been the person trying to love someone who felt like they were too much. How did you make it easy for them? How did you help them see they were exactly right? Drop a comment below and share your story, because someone out there needs to hear that they're not alone, that they're not too much, that they're exactly enough for the love they deserve. And tell me, where are you watching from? What country, what state, what corner of the world did this story reach? I want to know how far Hope's story has traveled. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story like this one. We share stories about real love, real struggle, and real triumph every single week. And don't forget to check out our channel for more beautiful stories like this. Stories about broken people becoming whole, about fear becoming courage, about love making the impossible easy. Because that's what we all need to hear. That we're not too much. We're exactly enough. And somewhere out there is someone who will make it easy to believe that truth. The end.